What's up, people? In this video, we're going to talk about why South Korea seems to be coming out of this coronavirus epidemic with less overall deaths compared to how many people have actually been infected with the disease. So for those of you who don't know, South Korea has around 9,000 cases of confirmed people who have been infected with the coronavirus and less than 100 deaths, I believe, which is a very low percentage of like mortality rate. And from what I've read, it seems like it comes down to two things. Number one is they're doing a lot of testing, and the tests seem to be like if somebody tests positive for the coronavirus in South Korea, then they quarantine them, or they're like mandatory. There's like a mandatory quarantine, and people who violate the quarantine, they can get fined up to $2,500 or the equivalent of $2,500 in Korean won. You could make the argument that this makes the case for quarantining people who have been affected, which by extension makes the case for social distancing, right? Because if you do the social distancing thing, then it's less likely that you'll get infected in the first place, and it's kind of just like voluntary self-quarantine, I guess. So that's one of the reasons that they're pointing to over there for actually having that work, and you could make that argument. It actually kind of does make sense. However, if you compare South Korea to Italy, the demographics of the people who have been infected are much different, right? So in Italy, for example, we all know the death rate over there is really bad. Lots of people in Italy, unfortunately, have been dying from complications resulting from being infected with coronavirus. But the difference, I was looking at some statistics, and it said that most people in Italy who have died from the coronavirus, the average age has been 81, so that's number one. And it affects more men than women, right? So you guys have probably heard the statistic that women live longer than men. This could be due to a few reasons. Some people say that testosterone actually shortens your lifespan, and estrogen is an antioxidant, right? So that's one reason. Also, another reason I think is that women tend to have, like, no offense, but like women have easier lives with less stress. You could make that argument. Like, they don't necessarily have to work. They don't do physical labor. That's another argument you could make. Another one is that women tend to take better care of themselves than men as well. They watch what they eat, they limit their calories. Obviously not everybody, and usually not in the United States. Well, maybe not usually, but less so, I guess, in the United States. But in Europe, that tends to be true. They watch what they eat, they pay more attention to taking care of themselves. They use like face creams and special soaps, and they just take better care of themselves than men who generally don't care. Another one is that in Italy, people smoke a lot more. They smoke, I guess, cigarettes or cigars. Didn't really specify what they were smoking over there. I'm assuming it's tobacco, and I'm assuming cigarettes, I guess. I don't really know what they smoke over there. I'm guessing cigarettes. And smoker, because COVID-19 or the coronavirus, or COVID-19 is the illness that results from the coronavirus. God, I can't believe I know all this. It's a respiratory illness, and if you smoke, you're going to have more problems than if you don't smoke, right? So that's kind of what it comes down to, is that if you're over 75 and you smoke cigarettes and you don't take care of yourself in general, yeah, you're at a much greater risk of dying from getting any illness, really, but I guess specifically this one that's going around, the coronavirus, right? Now, if you compare that to South Korea, the majority of the people that have been infected over there, from what I've read, have been communities of younger people, right? And also in Italy, I think it's 40% of the population is over 60 years old. Whereas in Korea, it's about half that, where it's like 18% is over 60 years old. And you have much more young people in Korea, and it seems like the populations of people that have been infected in Korea, I forget the name of the city, Shinjajo, I don't know, whatever, is mostly young women who do not smoke, right? So it's like the complete opposite demographic of what you see in Italy, which is like the worst, experiencing the worst results as far as what's going on. So is it the testing? Again, like I said, I guess you could make the argument that people who are tested and test positive and quarantine themselves and stay at home, yes, I guess that could stop the spread. And if you stop the spread, it's less likely that old men who smoke cigarettes are going to get it and therefore die. But I don't know. It doesn't seem like, just to be honest, I guess the final takeaway from all this is that I really think that it's the media blowing this out of proportion. I mean, obviously at the end of the day, I don't know. And I've also read some stuff on Reddit that says like all the deaths in Italy, all like everything taken into consideration, is not that much more in the grand scheme of things than all the people that die in Italy in total. So like, it's very easy for people to kind of watch the news and watch CNN and get all hyped up into a frenzy because of all this reporting and saying like, oh my God, it's the end of the world. It's coming to the US. It's going to spread here. Everybody's going to die. We're going to be on lockdown for 6 months. Like, it seems to be very easy for people to accept the worst because they're at home. They're plugged into the news. They're watching it all the time. They're reading about all this shit all the time. They're hearing all these bad things that are happening. And it's easy for them to get carried away with their own imagination and expect the worst to happen. Honestly, like, I still don't think it's that big of a deal, to tell you the truth, because it seems to be only people that are really sick anyway are dying, really. People who are at risk, who are obese, have bad health, smoke cigarettes, and are of a certain age where, like, they probably don't have that much time left anyway, to be fair. Like, sorry to say it, but, it is what it is. Which, again, is all the more reason to take care of your health as much as you can, as frequently as you can. Anyway, even when you don't have an unprecedented global pandemic of like some crazy virus from China going around, allegedly crazy virus from China. And final thing, I really think that the media needs to be held accountable for spreading all this panic. I mean, to be fair, like I could be wrong, and this virus could kill like 5 million people on the planet, but maybe it won't. And maybe it won't, and it won't have anything to do with people staying at home and shutting down all these businesses and putting the world on hold for X amount of time. But when you read stuff on the news or you hear CNN say like experts predict that up to 1 million people could die if we don't do anything in time, that's like saying it's similar to how when you it's a random example that popped into my head, but when you see somebody or when you hear of somebody who gets charged with a crime and they say like possible penalty is up to 25 years in prison. Yeah, okay, that's the absolute worst thing that could happen, because that sounds really threatening and really scary, and it'll make a great news headline. But chances are, if it's a first-time offender, if it's, whatever, if they make a deal, if like they plea bargain or something or whatever, then it'll get reduced to like community service or probation. Kind of a random example, but basically the point is that the media is incentivized to blow things out of proportion, because the more they blow things out of proportion, and they do this in regular headlines as well, it's just with most of the news most of the time, there's not a trackable like virus that's going around infecting people, and world governments are not responding and countries are not locking down. Doesn't have this much attention on it anyway. But they have incentive to blow things out of proportion, because if you stay home and only watch the news, like a certain news station, CNN, tells you to do, stay home, watch the news, don't go anywhere. What are you going to do? You're going to stay home, you're going to watch the news. The more people that watch CNN, the more people that are going to see the inevitable advertisements that come on CNN, for example. And the more money they're going to make, because they can charge more for those advertisements. So like, is that pessimistic of me to say? Am I an asshole for not, jumping on the bandwagon and saying like, oh, it's the coronavirus, stay at home, everybody? This is like remember when everybody changed their Facebook profile picture to like the rainbow thing? They're like, we show solidarity with this. That's admittedly like less dangerous than what's going on right now. Of course, a virus is different than like going to vote for gay marriage or whatever. But like, it really just seems like a bunch of virtue signaling bandwagon jumpers to me, and a huge overreaction to something that could have been prevented, I believe, by people actually just practicing healthier habits, like not smoking cigarettes, not eating shitty food, and fucking getting out and exercising. Like, you know what I mean? So anyway, it is what it is. That is my opinion on South Korea, coronavirus, why they're doing better, I guess. What do you think about that? Am I full of shit? Do I have no idea what I'm talking about? I would love to know your opinion. Even if you think I'm an idiot, let me know. Leave me a comment. Peace.